Hi, everyone. This is Kirsten, and thank you so much for tuning in into another amazing episode of the Relocate Podcast. So, you know, I post a new episode every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're following.
Mm-hmm.
I'm available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. So, if you're not following, go ahead and hit that button and support your girl. All right. So today I am so happy to introduce Kamara. She is currently located in Tijuana, Mexico. She moved there with her family about 4 years ago. I would love to mention that she is a serial nomad, serial relocator. Yes. A little bit more about Kamara. She is a multifaceted artist. She's an entrepreneur and she is a spiritual leader dedicated to fostering connection and healing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, she's based in Tijuana. She is a visionary behind thriving online communities and custom creations, which is an innovative blending of art and wellness. Oh, that's so cool. Uh, Also, a talented poet. Got to add that in there. Talented painter. She is very passionate about travel. She has her journey online.
Mm-hmm.
It's called. Recently rebranded. Um, it's not Travel with Love, is it? I
Yes,
thought
yes. So
it is.
Travel with Love is the brand name, but my
Yeah.
Instagram handles and my social media handles are Love Family Travels.
Okay, gotcha. That's why I was like, I thought okay, gotcha. Which is a platform inspiring healing through shared adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, serial nomad who just loves to vacation serially.
Yeah, vacation is my lifestyle.
Yes. So she has a pretty bold voice and a heart for empowerment. And her story is definitely one of transformation, creativity, and unshaken determination to uplift others.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so glad to have you. Oh, and she is from San Diego, California.
Originally.
Originally,
Mm-hmm.
she's lived in numerous states. She's been in Texas. She's been throughout the South. South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned that one. I'm from South Carolina. What part were you in?
So when I was a little girl, the first time I lived there, I lived in Anderson with my dad. We also lived in this little corner of Georgia that nobody knows. It's called Livonia. It's like 45 minutes outside of Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Latonia.
no, not Lithonia. Everyone gets it confused with Lithonia.
Oh.
It's Lavonia, so Livonia. And it's even
Oh.
smaller. Like it's like I think it's
Okay.
up to 85 or something like that. I was a really little child when I did that. And the second time I lived in South Carolina, I lived in Columbia.
Okay. That's more like it.
Mm.
No shade to Anderson, but
Anderson is the sticks.
it's very much so. Yeah. I mean, at least they have a mall. I don't even know if the mall is still there, but there was a mall once upon a time. At least when I lived in Clemson, there
Hmm.
is a mall in Anderson.
I was like 5.
Okay.
So I can't tell you.
Oh, but I am very happy to have you.
Mhm.
And I before we dive into your experience of being in Mexico, I want the listeners and the viewers to get a little more of like information about who you are as far as your upbringing
Mhm.
and how your experience in the US shaped your ability and your
Mhm.
decision to become this serial nomad.
Okay. So I've been traveling since I was 5, technically. So I lived with my mom until like 5 years old, and then I was moved across from Cali to South Carolina with my dad. And then I lived out there for some time, and then I got sent back to my mom's family, but not to my mom, if that makes sense. So I got finished raising in San Diego, California, back in Cali. And honestly, I was raised as like a regular black person, like black American. At that time I knew I was like part Jamaican. I knew some of my other ethnicities, but we didn't necessarily particularly participate in those cultures. Everyone was basically just culturally black American growing up. And my mom was in the military as I was growing up too, so there was just kind of a lot of bouncing around as it is already. And then when I did turn 18, I like immediately got married to this guy. And he was in the army. So I went to like college in Fullerton, California, and then he went to the army, and then that's how we ended up in New York. So like I just basically have been lived a life accustomed to moving all the time, ever since I was very young. So that's kind of how I just ended up becoming a serial nomad. It just like life shaped it that way. As far as like taking the decision to move outside of the country, I don't know. I feel like I'm a fearless person. I'm a butterfly. Like wherever the wind blows, I go, and I'm not scared. I don't know. I'm just not scared of other places. The world is big, and America can't be it. If I live in America, the most racist place to live. If I can survive the extreme racism and xenophobia and bigotry of America, then I feel like I can definitely survive other places. It's just more so like getting used to the infrastructure there or getting used to the cultural differences. Um, Coming here, it's not too culturally different from San Diego. San Diego is a city full of Mexican Americans, Mexicans from Mexico, people who have came from like South America and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of white people and Asian people. There used to be a bigger black population when I was growing up, but a lot over time it's gotten so expensive. A lot of people have moved away from California. And they now have like relocated to Arizona, Texas, Vegas, like places that are close but also much cheaper than California. So coming here culturally, it just felt like I was going home when I moved from Dallas to here. Especially since TJ is right next to San Diego. It's just like you cross the border, bam, I'm in my hometown. So it didn't necessarily feel like this huge leap of faith that some people would think that it was. And I had visited Tijuana before moving here. So it wasn't like I didn't know what I was getting into. Being from San Diego, like or California in general. TJ, Rosarito, Ensenada are like the little cheap vacations, little cheap quick trips. So everyone pretty much ends up down here at some point. And especially since like when you first turn 18, you can't go to the clubs and drink and stuff like that in Cali, but you could go to TJ
Ah.
and get drunk. So
I
like
love how you called it TJ, like that's your close cousin.
I mean, 'cause it's being TJ, it's TJ. Like I guess it's so regular for people from California to call it TJ or Tijuana because Tijuana is saying a whole lot. That it's like saying SD, living in San Diego. I live in SD, is TJ. So like it's just kind of normal for people to come down here. There is a black community down here. When I first moved out here, I was able to get into connect with some of the black people that were already down here. And then from there, I was able to help build up the black community that was here through like I said, I did a series of interviews and stuff like that when I first moved out here. I personally have helped 4 to 5 people move here myself. So it's just been a wild ride. It's been pretty cool. But yeah, shaping up to this point is just I was already used to traveling since a very young age, like just moving around back and forth and stuff like that.
Yep, that'll do it. That'll do
For sure.
it. So when you look back at your decision to leave, now granted you said TJ is not that far from San Diego, but I know you moved from Dallas
Right.
to
to TJ.
Mexico. What emotions or thoughts stand out most vividly when that
So
decision was made to go to TJ?
okay, so like in the early part of my 20s, I was very much a I got a thought in my head, so I just do kind of thing. So like at the time I was living with my partner in Dallas, and we had only been together for like 3 months when I was like, let's go to Mexico. And so what I did was I like to research a lot before I make a move though. Like, so I won't just be like, oh, let me go to Mexico and then do no research and just move. So what I did was like I was watching a whole lot of travelers and other people who were already expatriated into Mexico, but they were in places like Merida and Cancun, City of Mexico. There was a Haitian guy specifically that lived out here in TJ, and I was watching his videos like he was the only one that was black and living in TJ that was on YouTube. And so I was out here just I mean not out here. I was over in Dallas watching his videos about the how much he spent for rent and different sorts of things about the cost of living. And then I joined some Facebook groups as well that were dedicated to out here, Cancun and Cabo. Because those were the three places that we were interested in moving to, and got a lot of information about each of those places. And how we ended up here in TJ, our original plan was to like just leave Dallas. We packed up like all our kitchen stuff and all of our luggage, like our clothes and stuff like that. We drove from Dallas to TJ. And then stay here for a month in an Airbnb, and then we were supposed to fly to Cabo and stay there for a month, and then fly to Cancun and stay there for a month, and then after those 3 months, like figure out which place we liked the best, and that was the place we were going to live. However, my partner's passport didn't come in time. But for some reason, like the passport agency was like, "Fuck you," and so we just kind of got stuck here in TJ. We had pre-bought all the tickets too, so like we had the ticket from TJ to Cabo, Cabo to Cancun. Like we had already paid for everything, and we had to lose out on those flights because his passport wasn't here, and you can't fly in Mexico without your passport. Like you can drive from San Diego into TJ without your passport, but if you try to fly anywhere, you need to have your passport. Um, so we just kind of got stuck here, and it took like a year for some reason for his passport to come through. Like I don't know what was going on with the U.S. passport agency, but mine came in 6 weeks and his came a year later. So we just kind of like settled down here, and after we settled down here, it was like the pandemic was over. We weren't even getting like a residual income anymore. So it was kind of like, okay, we need to stay here so that one of us can work in the US.
I see. I didn't. I don't think I did a great job of painting the picture for everyone who's tuning in. I did say she's been into yeah, Tijuana for
For hmm
4 years. Yeah. So that would be 2000, right?
yeah, I
When
moved in 2020. So technically almost four.
2020, I
2021.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2021 is technically when we moved. So it's April of 2021. So April of 2025 will be technically the fourth year. It's like somewhere three. We're almost done. So it's like 3 to 4 years. But yeah, I've been here since April 2021.
Okay, April 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. During some offline time, I've had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. And you also mentioned that you relocated to pursue your dreams or
Yes.
just dreams in general. What exactly was that dream?
So, both of us like prior how Mexico kind of came up is we were like having, like when people first get together and they're talking about their dreams and stuff. And I told him I had like dreamed of leaving America, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I was thinking about that with somebody else," and they were looking into Spain, and I looked into Spain, and like the prices to live there, I was like, "This doesn't seem very different than living in America." And at the time, like I said, it was the pandemic, and then there was the visa issue, and like doing the immigration process and stuff like that. And so it really was to pursue a dream of living outside of America for both of us. And so we ended up with Mexico because it's a Hispanic country, and it was a lot cheaper and easier to get to versus like trying to pack up and take everything to Spain. From my idea of moving to the actual move, there was only 30 days in between.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is my partner that wants to move out the country? 'Cause, God, I see what you're doing for others. Okay.
It was a huge leap of faith. Technically, we barely knew each other because we got together December 2020, and by April 2021, we were living in Mexico together.
Okay.
Mm.
Wow. I love that. Oh, the Lord, I see what you're doing for others. Won't you do it for me too? All right. So what is it safe to say that this plan was made with the intention of um having more financial freedom, but more so like just
Yes.
having more access to the ways in which you utilize like your finances. And then I know the pandemic was fuzzy for a lot of people. So when it came to like employment and trying to find like a way to make more money,
Hmm.
how was that experience for you?
So this move was like I said, it was a leap of faith, and it also was a survival tactic because where we were, it was like either pay 1,900 a month and not be able to pay that and just keep racking up debt until they decided that they weren't going to have the pandemic coverage anymore, or just like get out of the country. So it was kind of like a Hail Mary type of move. When it came down to working, at first we weren't too worried about that because, like I said, it was during the pandemic, so we were still like able to get the unemployment checks and stuff like that. Um, so we were just, waiting for our checks to come, and because of at the time the peso to the dollar exchange rate was like 20 to 25 pesos per dollar. Like when we came over here and were like instantly rich, so it was just like, oh, okay. Like I remember I changed $1,000 into pesos, and they gave me like 20,000, almost 21,000 pesos just to go on a trip. And I was like, oh, this is lovely. This is very, very lovely. So um it ended up being, yes, for financial freedom and for us to like be like have the lifestyle we wanted without necessarily having to be so stressed about it, if that makes sense. And then once we like kind of got outside of the US, it started to be a bit healing for both of us. My partner, he's originally from Minneapolis, and so the only other place he'd lived was Texas. And so coming to the coast and living by beachside and stuff like that, like it was like a huge and different thing for him, and it was very relaxing at first. um and so we started like to be able to divest and heal from like racism and different things because we weren't experiencing racism out here or anything like that. um and so yeah, it just kind of like I don't know, it was on a whim, but at the same time I was listening to my intuition, so it wasn't technically on a whim, but it ended up being for our good in that way.
You know, I really admire the willingness to not give up when life is really beating you
Hmm.
in the back of your head with a bat.
Right.
Like, you did not limit yourself, your family, y'all did not limit yourselves to trying to resolve whatever y'all were going through while y'all were living in the US. You didn't limit yourself to just being in this bubble in a sense.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm sure a lot of people didn't really think like, hey, just because times are hard right now with, my savings and trying
Hmm.
to maintain during this pandemic, like times are hard, but I got to deal with this in America or in the US. And y'all
Hmm.
basically said, no, and you can still have the life that you want, and just
Go
gotta
somewhere else.
go somewhere that's going to definitely add the value that you need for the life
Hmm.
that you want.
Yes.
And I admire that. I really
Thank
do.
you. Thank
That
you.
that yeah. And the fact I'm a big research person. Yeah, like y'all took the time, y'all had the conversation, y'all did it, and y'all are still thriving. Thriving
Yes.
in a sense. So I love that. I love that. Okay. You mentioned there were challenges that you faced in the US as far as racism,
Hmm.
xenophobia. I failed to mention, I'd be failing to mention stuff. Um, yeah, so you consider yourself to be a member of the LGBTQIA community.
Yes.
And I think it's important to speak on that because, the US as of lately has not been very friendly as far as just laws in certain states,
Yes.
especially Texas, has not
Yes.
been like the cultural attitude towards LGBTQIA people
Hmm.
have not been accepted well in certain places in Texas. But I feel like Texas is one of the
Bigger
more
places, yeah. I
East, yes,
mean,
turn. Yeah.
so because we present as a lesbian couple, my partner is trans, he's female to male trans, but we present as a lesbian couple to folks, right? Um, we face a little bit less discrimination than like a gay couple, or if he were to be male to female trans or something like that, just because patriarchy like decides that men are worth more, so if a man is doing it, it's worse, but if women do it, it's just normal for some reason because we're just so sinful and things like that. So we didn't really necessarily, like, we faced certain things, but it wasn't like direct something's wrong with you guys, because Dallas was a very black city, and we tried to like get out and hang out with people and stuff like that, but it was very cliquey, so it's kind of hard for us to make friends and stuff like that. But I mean, like, racism and xenophobia in general due to like different laws and stuff like that. Like coming out here to California, I mean to Mexico, we're right by California. So like all of our insurance and stuff is still based in the US. And so we're able to like get better health care and things like that for my partner versus like if we were in Texas or something like that. So it's kind of like conventional. Right now we live a binational lifestyle and it's kind of really tough. You have to be a strong person to live a binat. Like you're basically in two countries all the time. And so our life is nothing but consistent travel. Like, and when I mean consistent, I mean consistent. Last weekend I was in Ensenada. This weekend I'm gonna be in San Diego. Yeah, I'm gonna be in LA. Like we travel a lot. So, because of that, like it just kind of made sense to like come here. Here in Baja, it's very much California. So I like to tell people that California is one big state divided by a border. So Baja California and California are very similar, especially when it comes to like the laws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so there is LGBT. They had their first Pride actually the year that I moved out here. They had their first Pride down in Rosarito.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
so they're LGBT friendly, like especially the guys, unfortunately. You know how it is sometimes with Hispanic men, they're like a little touchy and they do too much. And so like we tried when we first like moved out here, we tried to like the American way. Like if guys are like getting at us in the US, we just kiss each other and they leave us alone. Out here they would cheer us on. So it would have like the opposite effect. So like yeah, people were pretty comfortable with seeing us. Honestly, when they see us, they majority of people think we're just sisters at first until like they talk to us and then they find out that we're a family. And no one's all like, "Oh my God, those lesbian girls." Not at least not to our faces. Like we don't necessarily face that discrimination. And then California, it's California. Like I don't know how the rest of the country views California, but in my mind, they think we're gay as hell and liberal. Like so. It's nothing in California. There's like whole gay communities and stuff like that over in San Diego. So it's just been like a pretty decent experience. But like I said, it also is, you have to be like a certain type of person that can be very resilient, because the infrastructure here is different. We do have to visit the U.S. quite a lot for things, so it's crossing a border a lot, and that does get very tiring.
Mentioned you are a serial vacation.
Yes.
Um, so I'm also curious to know when uh, you all are traveling, how you've handled, if there were any situations,
Hmm.
how you've handled them when cultural or social norms around LGBTQIA identity differ from what you experience in Mexico or what you even experience in California.
Okay, so like we went to Belize earlier this year and got married. So,
Oh,
um, I can't say that I have experienced any like obscene hate in the places, because the Americas, like the US does not want people to know that the Americas altogether, north, south, pretty much like are the same. We are, that's why they say they call us the West and Western mindset and stuff. Like it's a capitalistic society here in Mexico, up in Canada. It's very much same thought process. So us going to Belize and like getting married and stuff like that, the locals, they welcomed us. They really pulled together for our wedding and stuff like that. And it was really, really beautiful. So I haven't necessarily faced anything negative in that respect. And like I said, most people just think we're like as far as going through customs and stuff like that, they think we're sisters. So they don't even like think, oh, these are a lesbian couple, let's just be rude to them. They're just like, they're Americans, they got this blue
yeah.
passport. If anything, we would face more discrimination for being American versus being gay.
Mm, let's get into that. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, because that is a thing. That
Yeah.
is a thing depending on where you go.
So there's a reason why that is a thing. There are plenty of Americans that go around and travel, and because America does not teach us in school about too much about like world cultures and stuff like that, like it tries, but it fails tremendously. Um, all the propaganda and stuff that we see, since the US wants us to be so patriotic, is that like the US is in the center and the world kind of revolves around us. And so there are people who like literally leave America and they have that entitled mindset. And then like as a culture, we're more entitled. Like in California, you can sue someone if they hit you. In Mexico, you can, but it might take a long time for you to finally see a court. It's like pointless. And then there's some other areas in the world where like there's certain things you can sue for that you can't sue for. Like here, if the housing differences. So like in America, you have a property manager. If the refrigerator breaks, you call the property manager. They call the maintenance guy. You got a new fridge. Out here, if your refrigerator breaks, you better buy a new one. Like there, it's all on you. So we are entitled in a way because we have so many conveniences and so much cushy things around us. And so when people go out and travel, they bring that mindset with them, not realizing like you're visiting another culture. You need to learn something about that culture before just going out and travel. So some people go out and basically show their ass, especially some of the clearer versions of Americans. And so it gives like a stigma, right? So um people also only see a certain side of Black Americans in media and TV, right? Because of what the media shows of us. So then there's also that like bias because they don't really know anything for real about Black people. Like when I first moved out here, people were just staring at me and my daughter and stuff. Like it was the first time they seen Black people. They used to run up to us and try to take pictures with us and like all kinds of things. I'm like, goodness gracious, y'all. Like y'all ain't never seen a Black person before. But it's like that. There's people from different parts of Mexico that visit TJ because TJ is a big tourist city too. And they've never seen these kinds of people before in their little corner of Mexico and stuff like that. So as far as like discrimination for being American, it's more so like here there's the Mexican price and then there's the gringo price. So they try to like tax us more because they feel like we're rich and we got that money, yada yada, so you can pay this higher price. So like say if I'm trying to buy this sketchbook, right? And it's like would normally be like maybe 45 pesos or something like that. They'll try to sell it to me for $15. Like,
Good
yeah.
night.
Yeah, they'll definitely try to like really up the prices, and if you're not aware of it, then you won't know to negotiate. And so for a lot of people they just pay because they don't know any better. Me, I'm gonna haggle you because I do a lot of research and I know that's not the real price. I've also noticed like I had a friend who lived out here and she made a fake Facebook page where she put like a Mexican person as like the profile picture and would like translate and text everything back and forth in Spanish, and they would give her lower prices for things.
That's genius. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so the discrimination for being American comes in like I look obviously American, especially before my locks. I had a big curly fro. And so some Mexicans would think I was Dominican because I could speak Spanish. Some would like know because of the style of dress that I'm American. Now with my locks, they get a little confused sometimes. Like if I'm walking around in my pajamas or something outside, because I don't always, it's Mexico, people be looking crazy, they'll think I'm Haitian. But if I'm like dressed like this, they will know that I'm American. Just because like we have a specific style and a specific way to it. So and then on top of that, I'm black, so it's very obvious that I'm not from here. Like in any respect, whether I'm French, Haitian, whatever, it's very obvious that I'm not from this country. So there is like a little bit of I don't know if I could call it discrimination, but they definitely like try to take advantage of the fact that they can tell that we are not from here. But because like I'm very familiar with the area and like I said, I did a lot of research before getting here, I wasn't like letting all that cut. And my Spanish is good enough for them to like think twice about messing with me. So they
I know that's
just
right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of Spanish and the language, you mentioned your Spanish is pretty good. How's everyone else's Spanish?
So my daughter, when we first moved out here, like refused to learn Spanish. When
Mm.
she was a baby, like there's certain things that I would say to her all the time in Spanish just to get her like familiar with the language. So there's certain things she understands, but as far as like speaking it herself, she does not want to do that. She has like even now that she wants to learn Spanish and she's actively learning more words and stuff like that, she still will not go outside and play with the other kids and then try to utilize her Spanish or anything like that. She'll just be like, I need them to speak English. It's too hard for her. With my husband, he came out here not really knowing any Spanish at all. And now he can negotiate a lease. He can
Go,
order food
husband,
for
go.
us, right? He can deal with the cops if the cops pull us over. Like he has enough functional Spanish to get by. It's still like if I'm present, he will just like lean on me specifically. But if he's out and about by himself, he can definitely get shit done.
Yes. Okay. I love that. All right. Okay. So I want to talk more about how um like we kind of talked about your experience, but
Mhm.
more so how was how was just being in Mexico for the first year? Walk us through how the first year went for you all.
So, excuse me. The first year was during the pandemic when we were still getting unemployment and stuff. So it was really fun the first year. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, we got out here, things were really cheap. And when I mean really cheap, like, Americans have gentrified this place, so the prices for housing and just in general have gone up astronomically, probably more than 300% since when we first got
Mm.
here. So things were just so cheap. We were eating out all the time. We were walking, touring things all the time. tacos every day, shots every day. Like we were just we were 24 and 23 at the time. So we were just living it up. Like we're young as hell. Like, oh yeah, we out here, we got some money. Let's do our thing. So the first year was very fun. We found a place out in Rosarito, which is like an hour south of the border. And I had that house. We furnished it. We got a dog, and we just kind of like settled in. My daughter came to live with us because she didn't come originally when we came. She was with her father, which is my first marriage. Um, so she came like August that year, and we had came in April. So we were here for a few months without her. Then when she came, I homeschooled her for kindergarten while also building my business, my travel business, Travel with Love. And I used to run people back and forth across the border and like do tours and stuff like that. So I'd meet them in San Diego and then they tour around Rosarito and TJ, some all the way even to Ensenada. And then take them back to San Diego. So she got to watch me like run a business from home. I also would DoorDash from here or there. So like in her mind, when she grows up, I think she's gonna be some sort of business owner because she sees what my husband does, which is go to work every day, and she don't want to do that. She's not interested in going to work every day. So he was when it was time to go back to work, um he went back to work. I still continued to work on my business and really like get it ramped up. I don't know why, but during COVID, Black people were, I feel like, were traveling so much, especially more than now, afterwards when they lifted up all of the COVID restrictions. I feel like now in 2024, almost 2025, we're getting back to it, but there was like a year or two where there was a dip in travel and stuff like that. So it was like pretty cool to be able to meet different people, show them my lifestyle. I did, like I said, a lot of interviews with different people as well. Some who came out to actually, someone came to my home and did an interview with me and then took it back to America with them. I participated in a documentary since then. That's been accepted in film festivals all over the US and Mexico. So like we just really kind of had fun our first year.
And after that first year, how was how was everything for you, and how was everything for your family?
So for me, I was still like pretty happy with living here. Things started to really change for my husband as he began having to cross the border daily, because it is a very, very stressful thing to do every single day. His mental health started to decline tremendously, whereas mine was like doing fine for some time. And so it has taken probably like year two or three, like there was like a dip in how we felt, well, how he felt about this place. I was still like very much, yeah, in Mexico, I love living here. And he was like, fuck this place. I want out. And so that stress in itself, like, is probably one of the things that is also prompting us to move out now, aside from me feeling like I've been here too long. So aside from like being here already 3 years and feeling like I want to do something new, also like he wants to get away from having to travel across the border because he spends like 3 hours each way to get to work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely take a toll on my mental health too.
Mm-hmm. And
I
that's
don't
a
even
whole job just to get to work. And then the type of work he does, he's a he does security installation and cable installation. And so he has to drive all over the city of San Diego, like even the more remote spots to like install cameras and cable and stuff. And then that could be from 7 a.m. That's when he has to like go to work, and he could be getting off work as late as 7 p.m. sometimes. There's like no specific off time. It's whenever he finishes all the work that they give him for that day. So like it was getting pretty bad. At first, crossing the border all the time wasn't too bad because we have a car. So like it would be like an hour wait to get into San Diego, then he would drive up real quick, maybe like catch a nap in the car before work and then go to work. But ever since like so many more people have moved to TJ, especially from California. There's people from actually all over the US here. I met people from like Pittsburgh, Texas, Louisiana, um, Minneapolis, like all over the states. So there's so many people that live here now that are trying to work into San Diego that it can take like 2 or 3 hours if you're stuck in it and the worst part of traffic just to get across the border.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that mm. And that's still going on to this day.
Yes.
Kudos to your husband.
Man, I love that man, okay? It's lots of sacrifices. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're planning our escape for his health, for his mental health and stuff like that. Just because I'd rather us both feel happy where we live versus like one of us feels happy and the other one feels overly stressed.
Yeah. And I'm wondering too, like overall, just how has this experience changed your family's approach to facing challenges together?
It really showed me how extremely resilient we are. Cause like I said, when we first met is when we moved at like we weren't too far into the relationship. So like even just going out on that leap of faith showed me how much commitment that we had to each other and stuff like that. And so facing like load shedding and maybe sometimes the water's off or having to take forever to cross the border, like there are different challenges that come up. It's really grown our resilience a lot, especially my daughter. Most American kids don't have this type of experience, and so like they're used to running water all the time, or this, that, and the third. And so, like I said, we're pretty entitled in America because the infrastructure there just kind of, I don't want to say it works seamlessly, but we are very used to it, okay? Aside of the racism and stuff, it's a pretty good place to live. And so it really did build up our resilience a lot. Um, I would say I had to get creative after a certain time, like when people stopped traveling so much, and how I was going to like still bringing in an income to the family on top of how bringing in an income. I would say for like others who are thinking about it, if you can find a remote job and stay on this side, on one side of the border, then it would be the best for you. I have had friends who like worked remote, they stay at home and they just live in Mexico for the most part. They rarely go to San Diego and they seem to be a lot more happier with the move and stuff like that. Um, Having to cross the border a lot does make it hard, but there are over 300,000 people a day who do this. So it's not impossible. You just have to have an extreme amount of resilience to do so.
Right. It's not like being in, because you know how Charlotte is like really close to South
Mhm.
Carolina. It's like
Yeah.
it's
No,
not
it's not like that.
not like that.
No, it's not like
I
living in
gotta throw that
Columbia
out
and
there.
just driving up to Charlotte because you gotta work. No, no, there's way more to it. Especially because in the South, like if you're driving up to Charlotte, there's not gonna be a whole lot of traffic for real. Like you're not gonna have to drive aggressively. Like the traffic here, I like to describe it as New York traffic had a baby with LA and Atlanta. Okay, so like
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so like think of them three places, all they types of traffic is in one area. Okay, so and I've lived in ATL, I've lived in LA and New York, and so you have to be very aggressive here. Like you have to really know how to defensive drive, and a lot of people don't know how to defensive drive. A lot of people don't know how to offensive drive, let alone defensive drive, and you have to do both at all times here. And so I can say the driving has raised my anxiety as a passenger, if that makes sense. Like there's certain if I'm the one driving, it's not that bad because I'm like in control of the vehicle. But as a passenger, it just feels crazy because like the person just kind of has to go. People will get over, no blinker or your blinker's on, they're not gonna let you over. It's just insanity. It's kind of like you make up your own rules as you drive. So yeah, that's one thing that kind of affected my mental health is like whenever I have to get in a car and go with him anywhere. So I'm like, ugh, like closing my eyes and stuff like that, especially since we got a truck. For the most part, because I homeschool, we stay in Mexico majority of the time, and maybe we'll cross the border on the weekends and stuff like that to do things that I have to do. Um, but so I'm not in a car too much out here, but he's facing it every single day, and the traffic is super, super extreme. So like, yeah, it's not like going to Charlotte. Honey, you gonna get to Charlotte and you still gonna have some strength up in you. After this, you need a nap, and then you could go to work.
Right, right. I see what you mean by resilience now.
Mm-hmm.
Having those stressors, affect uh affect you, affecting your husband, because you mentioned too offline,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like the like not only did you move to Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
but you lived in like multiple like not locations, but just like housing, like you moved to different like
Yeah, four
units or
different places.
apartments or homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So husband is traveling a lot,
Yes.
doing this aggressive New York baby, Atlanta,
Right. Traffic.
New
There's
York made a baby in
obscene
Atlanta,
traffic.
in LA, all that intertwined
Mm-hmm.
traffic. But moving to multiple, like I moved quite a bit when I was in Houston, and that was
Mm-hmm.
hard on me.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine doing that and having to do that with the family. I mean, what are some ways in which you or your husband kind of address those the mental toll that this experience has
Why we
brought?
travel a lot. This is
Okay.
why we are serial vacationers. And this is where Travel with Love, the brand, is a brand that teaches people to heal through travel. Because of our lifestyle technically is one of constant travel. So it doesn't, I know for a lot of people, it probably wouldn't make sense that traveling more would make our mental health go up, but it does. It's different kinds of travel. So it's stressful traveling across the border going to work, right? But like when we took our kids to Disney earlier this year, we went to Florida. That was like really healing for us. That's something that both of us as children wanted to be able to do for our children growing up. So it kind of was like a full circle moment for both of us. We were able to like not tell them no, we had enough money saved up, but you whatever you want, you can buy. So that like those kinds of things, being able to like take our daughters and travel and show them other cultures and other areas, that kind of keeps our mental health up. Also, I draw a lot, so before we were hopping on this, I was drawing.
Oh,
So I
wow.
draw, I paint. That's my painting. So like when you're reading the my description, I also write poetry. Like there's a lot that I do to channel my emotions into something beautiful so that I can stay a sane person, cuz it this lifestyle can make someone insane very quickly if they don't have the tools properly for healing. So when we do travel, like we make sure we have a rest day, at least one, maybe two rest days where we don't have to do anything at all unless we want to. Typically, on our rest day, we still end up doing something, but it's not like an excursion or something very heavy. More like maybe some light sightseeing. Okay, let's go back. We're done in 2 hours or something like that. Um, and so we try to make sure, like, even sometimes some of the excursions that I choose for us, because I usually organize most of the travel since I'm the travel agent. Um, I try to ensure that the excursions themselves are also healing ones. So ones that take us into nature where we can feel a little bit more grounded, or like, have a spa treatment or something like that, just to like relax and rejuvenate us.
I also wanted to touch bases on homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's based on the lifestyle that we've come to understand. I
Mm-hmm.
see why homeschooling is the way to go.
Yes. Oh
I would
God, I could pick up and go at any time. That is the beautiful part, like, of homeschooling. It's a hybrid homeschool. That's what I like to call it because she does have a teacher. And she does have like class time. They treat it kind of like college. So like she like goes in for the morning meeting and then she's off for an hour and then she goes in for her hour of class and then the rest of the day is like pretty much up to me. And so they give us like certain since it's based from California, there's certain California metrics that you have to hit in order to verify that the children are actually learning and stuff like that. So there's certain things that they send out for us parents to do with the children and like they tell us what to say and stuff like that. So I have like a really lot of help. It's a lot of hand holding with this homeschool program. So that's why I think it's like more hybrid because she goes to school online, but like then again I'm at home and I had to like convert my kitchen and part of her bedroom into a classroom so that we could learn. And then sometimes we just be here in my bedroom just learning things. But yeah, the homeschooling was definitely is what fits our lifestyle most because we get up and go so much. So like she got a computer, as long as we got internet connection, she could be in school. If she was in the school, they would be on me about how much school she's missing and her attendance and stuff like that. Where with this program, her attendance is mostly counted by work completed. So as long as she has 60% or more of her work completed, then she has attended school. She got 100% completed because I'm not playing them games. Like 60, no. You gonna do your work every single day. And I schedule it to where kind of like Mondays and Fridays we don't really school. And so for her, she gets to have a little bit of a break from traditional schooling because when she goes to live with her dad, he puts her in traditional school 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. This way she still gets to learn like a second grader, but it's more of like a Montessori style of learning. So she's also learning other skills like cooking, drawing. She definitely took up the habit. I mean, not the habit, the hobby of drawing this year a lot, and she's gotten so much greater at it. So it just kind of like expands more that what she can learn.
Okay. You hinted at the possibility of leaving Mexico. Some of the systems that you already have in place, because serial nomad,
Mm-hmm.
serial vacationer, do you plan to maintain those systems such as homeschooling?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here thinking, is husband able to transfer his position?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. He works in the US, so yeah, he can transfer his job and his income, and which is beautiful because he has a California income, and so being able to transfer that outside
Oh,
of California,
yeah.
it's gonna be like we live here, but now we live in one city instead of living in two places at the same time. So yeah, we still plan on traveling. Maybe not as much just because America is slightly more expensive in general. Like my internet bill here is $25 and my lights cost like maybe 75 to $100 and the gas is like $30 or less. So like the bills here are really, really, really freaking cheap. When I first moved here, my water bill was consistently $5 a month. Like it was never higher than that. So that we'll have to see what the adjustment would be with like how the bills are, and our rent obviously is going to double moving back to the States. But we still plan on vacate, like we already are paying for next year's travels now, even though we're also going to move next year. So it's like we're going to move in May, and then by July, August, we'll be outside of the country again, traveling, and then back to our regularly scheduled program. I do plan on going back to college to formally get a degree in art therapy and also become an educator. So there will be a lot less traveling due to me personally being in school. I want to be able to focus on that. So I'll have huge blocks where I can't go anywhere and then probably travel during my like breaks. Like there's the winter break during school, then the summer break and stuff like that. So it will calm down a bit, but I don't think we're a family that will ever stop traveling. Like we're just travel addicts.
So let's say like after um you matriculate from college and
Mm-hmm.
um like some years pass by and
Mm-hmm.
um Uh, I guess let me ask, what's the longest that you foresee staying at your next destination?
Oh yeah, we
Is
talked
there
about
a
that.
timetable or
Yes, there is. Okay, so I told
okay?
him no more than 10 years. The reason why is because we do have other children. So you see my daughter mostly in the pictures, but you don't necessarily see his two daughters as much. And that's just because their moms are not very like one mom lets the baby come stay with us. I think the most she stayed with us was for a year, but then she wanted to go back with her mom and stuff. So we're also moving back closer to his children. That's where they live. And so we want to see all the girls like raised together. The oldest is
Oh,
10, and then my daughter is 8, and then the next one is 6. And so like if we're there for 10 years and they're all majority raised all the way up, the last one would be 16, and so we can leave out. We do plan on still traveling to different countries because as we travel, we are going to be country shopping to make our like final exit from the US. So like we do plan to purchase a home in US just so that we always have a home in the US, and then also like country shop and figure out where we're going to live out the rest of our lives. I've been doing a lot of research on that since we moved out here. Like we knew Mexico was not going to be the end all be all of our life. It was just going to be a stepping stone to somewhere else. And so with me going back to school, being able to get certain certifications and stuff, and I will be able to work right along with him. I think like the remaining 4 years, and we can just stack a whole bunch of money up to get up out of America. So we have like a 10-year plan for it. And like well, at least 5 years in, purchase a home, this, that, and the third. Like we have a whole plan, but I don't want to be there longer than 10 years. And that honestly will be the longest that I've ever been in one place ever. Because I've been a serial nomad and a serial traveler. So like that is kind of like I don't know how to feel about that. I'm excited because I finally have someone that I feel like I could settle down with in that way. But at the same time, I'm like kind of scared after 4 years. I'm gonna be like, all right, let's go. Because that's just been me like for a very long time. So I'm excited for the most part to see how it's gonna go.
I don't know if my next question is gonna feel like I'm all up in your business.
It's
But
okay.
I had a realization, just a thought.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like I know people who are co-parenting and they
Hmm.
have aspirations of maybe one day living the life that
Hmm.
you're currently living.
Hmm.
Um, you can definitely shoot down this question, but I just want to know if you have any, like, what words of advice would you provide to people who are currently living this life but may have a difficult time co-parenting?
Um, it's honestly would be like case by case. So like you would know your individual situation and what your rights are versus the other parents' rights and stuff like that. It does get to be a little bit difficult to co-parent from two different countries. It but it also depends on the amount of respect that you guys have for each other. So like mine and my daughter's dad, we have like amazing respect for each other. We don't really like argue or anything. And we have our custody arrangement pretty much like her whole life. It's been like when she before she went to school, it was like 6 months with each of us so that we had the same amount of time because we haven't lived in the same place ever since we split. And then since school, it's been like 1 year each. So, um, if you have someone that respects you enough and is going to respect like your custody arrangement, it could be completely beautiful. She is accustomed since birth of for going like a small amount of time without each parent. But it also gives her two homes to live in, two Christmases to have, two birthday celebrations. So like she doesn't really care. She misses me from times. She misses her dad at times, and then we come pick her up. She's with us, and then halfway through, she's like, "Okay, this is normal. I want to go with the next parent." Like she's just kind of like that. So it does affect her a little bit, but overall she has been a very joyous child. And I'm not sure if that's because how we raise her, because on both sides she's raised pretty much a suburban kid. Or if she just has this internalized joy within her, like just and it's her, but she's a very, very happy child. My other daughter, when she came out, she liked being out here, but she didn't really like the isolation so much. Just because she's older and she was very much used to America, and this was her first time moving away from her mom, versus my daughter who's been doing this since basically birth. So for her it was a little bit harder, and so you just kind of really have to know your kids, and you have to know the other parent well enough to judge if you can make a move like this, or if you need to just stick it out until the kid is completely raised and then go do your own thing.
That's very understandable. That's very understandable. Okay. We are winding down to the very end.
Okay.
And have two more questions because
Okay.
I feel like for a lot of people, community is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you mentioned earlier that um, one of the ways in which you like fostered a sense of community, not only for yourself but for other
Mm-hmm.
people, was by engaging and creating like your own space where
Mm-hmm.
people can, come in and find that community. Was it like a online community?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yes and no. Okay, so for
No.
people who are looking to move, community is a huge thing. And this is why research, you need to do your research before you just get up and go somewhere. A lot of the people that I helped move out here, they were in constant contact with me for like quite a few months before moving out here. And for me, there was already an established online community on Facebook for the expats that are out here. There was a black version, and then there was the everyone version, because black people, we need our own space because the other people. And so I was able to just kind of come into a community that was in the grassroots of already being built, and then just kind of help build that up. So for now, since the pandemic, like all over the world, there are Black expat communities. You just have to do your due diligence and going on Facebook, going on YouTube, doing your research. Not really so much on Google, but you can try. We're really mostly seen on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, um those sorts of platforms. And there's a lot of Black expats who are like just giving out the info on how it is to move to their area, how life is in their area and stuff like that. Like Cancun has a really, really big expat community that even people who are just traveling to Cancun, not even trying to move there, like you can reach out to their expat community. They'll come party with you for the weekend, and then like you can go home. Having met so many Black Americans, just make sure you do your research, and try to connect with the community before you move out there. Try to make a couple of friends that way. There's like at least one or two people who are expecting to receive you on that end. And then it will be a lot easier too to like go to the community meetups and stuff like that. I want to say the pandemic, there was at least an exit of somewhere between 500K to like a million Black people left the country. And so yeah, like there a lot of us just was like, we out. Y'all deuces. So like there are already established communities and places, like many places. Like there's a Black community in Thailand. Okay. No one thinks about going there, but there's a Black community out there. There's one in Bali. There's definitely some all over Africa. There's Black communities in the UK and all over Europe and stuff like that. There's this one Facebook group specifically called Blaxit. It's Blaxit, and that's what we were calling it, like the Black Exit. Type that in, and it's the one that has over 100K people inside of their group. That is a huge resource for like worldview of different Black people who have moved to different parts of the world. So like if you're thinking about going to China, because there's a lot of them in China too, you can be like, you can well, don't go in there and just straight ask who's in China, because the information has been repeated so many times. People, you know how black people are, don't like repeating themselves. So use that search bar, okay, and type in the question that you have and see if somebody else already asked that question, and then you can go from there and inform yourself. Like, to this day, posts I made like 3 or 4 years ago in that group are still getting engagement because I was able to answer some questions for some people. So they're still hearting my comments and they're still reaching out to me with questions and like, oh, hey, I heard you're in Mexico. Can I da 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 da? Like, so the information is there. You just gotta seek it.
Right. Speaking of seeking information, I'm sure there are people from the LGBTQIA community who's seeking some like sort of community to gain a better understanding of places that are more of a safe space. Is that something that can be found on
Yes.
Blaxit, or are there like
Yes.
separate?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So, Blaxit is all things black. So if you black and gay, go in there, ask your questions. I will say the world in general is not as open to gayness as the US is, which is crazy because the US is very like hatred towards it. But like, at least you can be a lesbian couple in the US. There are other places in the world where you better not do that shit or you're gonna end up in jail, and the US is not going to come rescue you. So you just, it really, like, go in there, ask all the questions. Even if you think the question is silly and you can't find an answer on your own, ask it. Just ask it. Put somebody in there will answer it. And if you don't get an answer the first time, ask it again. The more you engage with that group, it's kind of like algorithms in general. The more you engage with something, the algorithm will show it to you more. So the more you engage with
right.
that group, the more the algorithm will see that you really, really want to engage over here. So it'll start to push your posts out to more people, especially if you are commenting other posts. So like, you can't just go in there and just post and not engage with the group and think that it's going to work, because just Facebook in itself doesn't allow things to work that way. So try to heavily engage. Definitely like people's posts, try to find out as much information as you can. But yeah, ask the questions. They're there. Majority of places I think are like hush hush LGBT friendly. Like, Jamaica supposedly as a country hates LGBT, but there's a whole community out there fighting for their rights and stuff like that. So like, it's not an absolute no, but at the same time you just have to do your due diligence.
Gotcha. Oh, the Lord, the world we live in. Okay. Um, if y'all would like to learn more, because as you see, Mara has a wealth of experience when it comes to travel,
Yes.
and she has a whole business that's centered around this. Plus, it's centered around healing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely engage with her, and I'm gonna have her at the end of this, towards the end of this episode, tell you all how you can tap in and be engaged with what all the amazing things that she has going on. It'll also be in the description of this episode too. My very last, two more questions. Based on what you know now, just like your overall experience
Mm-hmm.
with just being outside of the US, being in TJ. I just love that. I'm going to adopt that, TJ. Based on your experience and what you know now, what words of advice would you provide to the version of yourself that was in Dallas
Mm.
and what, 2021,
Mm-hmm.
when you met your but now husband?
Yes.
You know, we're just discussing things, just throwing ideas out there. What what words of advice would you provide to that version of yourself?
Trust yourself. Honestly, just trust your gut. Because moving here, though, it does have its challenges. It did really great amounts of things for us in our relationship, and it's like a lot stronger than ever. So, just trust yourself was one thing I would tell my previous self, and don't move to Rosarito. Just
Oh,
live in TJ. But that's only because our unique situation. My partner would not accept a work at home job at all. It's just not fitting for him. So he's the type, he's got to work with his hands. So unfortunately, we would have to live closer to the border so that there's not so much extra traffic trying to get to the border and then get to work. But outside of that, just really just trust myself. I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would.
Husband, that sounds like a whole entrepreneurial business opportunity for you. You know how many people are leaning on others who know how to work with their hands in other countries?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, look. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I wish y'all well.
Thank you.
Yeah, like life seems to be like on the up and up,
Mm-hmm.
and I look forward to definitely stalking social media even more, to just follow your story. And for my very last question, for those who are interested in being like immersed in the business adventures
Mm-hmm.
that you have, um, just kind of picking at your brain a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more.
What they got?
How can they find you?
So just find me on my socials. On It's gonna be Love Family Travels on all my socials. I try to keep it the same for all of them to make it very easy to find me so that people don't have to like type in a whole bunch of different things. So on TikTok, I'm gonna rebrand it to Love Family Travels because I don't think I've done that one yet. On Threads, I'm at Love Family Travels. On Instagram, Love Family Travels. Also, if you guys want to write down the business Travel with Love, that is my travel agency, and that's another way that you can find me. I don't remember if I gave you my email, but my email is in the description to all of my socials, so you can be able to email me if you need to ask me questions and stuff like that, or just message me on Facebook or message me on Instagram. I don't check my Instagram messages often enough, so if it takes me a very long time to get back to you, my apologies. I'm kind of busy. But I will try my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate you taking time away from your loved ones to just share your story and your experience being in TJ. And I wish you all nothing but the best.
Thank
If
you.
there's any way that I can support you all, just please let me know. And
Okay.
yeah,
I will
'cause
be stalking you too, seeing who else got something to say about where they relocating to. Cause listen, I'm shopping for a new country.
I know that's right. Wait, what did you call it earlier? Because you said you would your country
Shopping. Country
shopping.
shopping. Yeah.
I, I'm gonna adopt that because I'm country shopping too. It's just a matter of time.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like at my wits end, but more so it has to do with just me trying to pay off student loans. That's like the last thing that's lingering for me.
Yeah.
But Mr. Orange Man is kind of like dangling my my current like benefits over my head right now, and
Yeah.
it's just not pretty.
No.
I'm at my wits end.
Yeah.
I'm like this close to just leaving.
I
And
mean, do it. Just do it. Just do it. If you feel a call deep inside of you that's like, I need to get the fuck up out of here, do it. Do your research, get everything in order, cross all your T's, dot your I's, and just do it. You will probably like love yourself more for taking that huge leap of faith than like straddling the fence on it. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's Mexico or any other country outside the US, you are going to become a more resilient and humble person in overall just because you had to go be an immigrant. It is hard to be an immigrant. And people in America do not understand that. So they look at immigrants and look down on immigrants, especially Donald Trump and his following and stuff like that. But it is very hard to be an immigrant in another country. So if you can put yourself into their shoes and go immigrate somewhere else for a time, like you will empathize with the amount of people who end up moving to the US.
right, right, right. Thank you for that. I'm glad that you pointed that out.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, We gonna let you go.
Okay, thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Yeah. Wait, don't like go yet,
Okay.
but like yeah. But we gonna let the people who are listening go. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Relocate Podcast. And catch me every Wednesday and make sure y'all are subscribed. So I don't have to remind y'all. Duh. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.